Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo 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 Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
We're taking a plunge in the ocean of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. And the chapter that we're discussing from is chapter 14. That it's really easy to say it's Brahma's prayers, but there's a nice section that follows Brahma's prayers. Brahma's prayers take 40 verses of chapter 14, and we completed those prayers. And at the end of his prayers, what does Brahma do? He circumambulates Krishna 3 times. Krishna's silence, after 40 verses of prayers, he doesn't say anything. He takes it as consent to return to Brahmaloka and continue his service to Krishna in Brahmaloka. And silently, Krishna is acknowledging, our acharyas tell us, continue with your service and I'll bring you back to the spiritual world at the end of this lifetime. Because it's not every Brahma, there's lots of details, but keeping it simple, it's not that every Brahma at the end of Brahma's life goes back to Godhead. That's another class. But he circumambulates Krishna and returns. Krishna goes to where the calves had strayed to 1 year ago, and they're still there. Under the influence of Yogamaya, they're still there. And the cowherd boys are still there by the bank of the river Jamuna. And they haven't even eaten anything yet for a whole year, and the food that's in their hand hasn't gotten stale. Pretty good. Not even a refrigerator. It's just like suspended animation by Yogamaya's influence. And they say, oh, Krishna, you're so attached to us, you can't be away from us for a moment. Sit down and finish lunch. Because Krishna still has, in his left hand, because he eats with his right hand, some yogurt rice, and smiling, and he sits down and they have lunch. And they're enjoying and frolicking, doing what the cowherd boys do. Then it's time to go home. And on the way home, Krishna shows them, just see, Aghasura. So the Aghasura body has been there for a whole year. And as far as the cowherd boys were concerned, it happened the same day, the killing of Aghasura. So when on their way home, they're singing songs. That's what the Brijbasis do. Even today, they sing songs. But they sing songs about what Krishna did during the day. And when they get back, it's a festival. Krishna's back, and he's so happy being with the cowherd boys and being with the calves. And his beauty and his happiness overwhelms the Brijbasis, and they feel feelings that are really special we're going to hear about. This is life in Vrindavan. It's like never a dull moment in Vrindavan. It's a festival every moment. So I want to read something before we begin with this evening's verses. We're going to start with verses 47, 48, 49, chapter 14, canto 10. But in these evening classes, some mention was made of a passage from Uddhava Gita. That's what we're doing in the morning class, Uddhava Gita. It starts with chapter 7, canto 11, Uddhava Gita. And there's a very interesting commentary by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. I mean, the context there is Krishna's in Dwarka. Arrangements have been made for Krishna telling, there's this bad situation that Samba has offended the Brahmanas, and the Brahmanas cursed that lump of iron that's underneath your sari, Samba, that's going to bring the ruination of the entire Yadu dynasty. So they made a curse. Ugrasena, hearing that curse had happened, he made a decision. The decision was to take that lump of iron and grind it into little powder, throw it into the sea. And everything except one piece became powder. That one piece later was thrown into the sea, swallowed by a fish caught by a fisherman. The fisherman saw the fish to a hunter. The hunter used the iron to hit Krishna in the heel with an arrow, the tip of an arrow. But all the other iron became washed up to the shore of Prabhas, became situated in reeds, and they became like iron, and those were the reeds that were used for the Yadu dynasty members to finish themselves off. So, Krishna told the Yadu dynasty members, go to Prabhas, because it's known according to scripture that, and in historical incident as well, he refers to a historical incident where the moon had been cursed by Daksha and overcame the curse of Daksha. Brahmanas cursed by going to Prabhas and bathing and doing austerity, so let's go there, and maybe we can minimize the offense of and the curse of the Brahmanas. So while they're making preparations, Uddhava puts 2 and 2 together and comes up with 4. He knows Krishna very well because he's so intimately associated. He goes to Krishna and says 2 things. Take me with you. And the second thing is, for persons like me that are very attached to the temporary, can you give very simple instructions how others can also attain you? Very relevant question, right? So that's Uddhava Gita, as a response to that question. The whole Uddhava Gita. Then there's details. In details, Krishna begins speaking. And he's speaking, initially Krishna is speaking Jnana Mishra Bhakti. Knowledge mixed with, bhakti mixed with knowledge, leading to detachment from the temporary. And then there's commentary. 176, commentary, Vishwanath goes like this. Listen carefully. You'll be pleased, you'll be delighted to hear this. Sometimes, being fully engaged in my devotional service, Krishna's speaking, this is commentary, those devotees fully engaged in his devotional service, may seemingly forget me. But a pure devotee who possesses love for me will always be protected by his sincere devotion. Even if such a devotee unexpectedly meets with death while forgetting to keep his mind fixed on me, his love for me is so strong that it will give him protection, so that he will eventually attain my lotus feet, which are beyond the vision of materialistic persons. That question comes up. Yes? Here's the answer. And there's another scriptural reference, won't you be pleased to hear? Says same thing. It's from Varaha Purana, Adi Varaha Purana. There's some Sanskrit here. If my devotee is unable to remember me at the time of death because of disturbances felt within the body at that time, then I shall remember my devotee and take him back to my supreme abode. I shall remember my devotee. No, the Uddhava Gita section is the bhakti will carry the bhakta to Krishna. And here is Krishna, I'll carry my devotee to me. So those two references. Here's a third one. When Ramanujacharya is having a conversation with the deity, Lord Varadaraj, he asks this question, what happens if? And the same answer. The Lord will take his sincere devotee. If it's circumstantial, he somehow doesn't remember. And a fourth reference is indirect, but it's Canto 6, Chapter 3. This is Yamaraj to the Yamadutas, who says, my dear servants, please bring to me only those sinful persons who do not use their tongues to chant the holy name and qualities of Krishna, whose hearts do not remember the lotus feet of Krishna even once, and whose heads do not bow down even once before Lord Krishna. Send me those who do not perform their duties towards Vishnu, which are the only duties of human life. Please bring to me all such fools and rascals. That's Prabhupada's language, of course, fools and rascals. So, there was a lot of discussion about that because I read, we were discussing Uddhava Gita, and the people went, wow, can you just elaborate on that? So that's what this is. There's other scriptural references like that. So now we're going to go to 14:47, and Krishna's just now going to reach Vrindavan. Having finished lunch, the cowherd boys are partying on the way back, singing Krishna's glories. Lord Krishna's transcendental body was decorated with peacock feathers and flowers and painted with forest minerals, and his bamboo flute loudly and festively resounded as he called out to his calves by name. You know how many calves there are? The number is asankhataha. Asankhata means too many to count. This term asankhataha is explained in chapter 12. So many quadrillion times, so many quadrillion times, so many quadrillion times, so many quadrillion equals asankhataha. Too many to count. There's a lot of calves. And Krishna had a relationship with each calf, and he called each calf by their name. And it's said that he would call their name through his flute. They would hear their name through Krishna's flute. He is a magical flute. His cowherd boyfriends purified the whole world by chanting his glories. Then Lord Krishna entered the cow pasture of his father Nanda Maharaj, and the sight of his beauty at once produced a great festival for the eyes of all cowherd women. That's the elders. This is the BBT purport. It's not Prabhupada, it's his followers. According to Srila Jiva Goswami and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the gopis mentioned here are the elder cowherd ladies, such as Mother Yashoda, who loved Krishna with parental affection. Krishna's cowherd boyfriends were so proud of Krishna's wonderful activities that while entering the village, they all sang his glories. Krishna's great. They don't see him as God. They see him differently than the elders see him. None of them see them as God, just like Krishna's really great. Well, listen to what he did today. And the parents would be eager to hear. And then the parents would compose new songs according to their taste and their rasa, and they would sing and they would sing. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, really short purport. With great affection, Krishna called out each of the calves' names. Seeing him was a feast for the eyes of the elder gopis in Vatsalya Rasa. Vishwanath says. Jiva Goswami writes, he entered Vraja, giving joy to the eyes of the women of Vraja because of being dressed in forest attire, and being intensely joyous from associating with the boys and calves. The minerals of the forest that's mentioned include gorika, which is red oxide. When we are, during this coming weekend, we're going to be discussing the Govardhan Leela. In depth. Govardhan Parikrama, not just the Govardhan Leela, Govardhan Parikrama. And there's verses that we'll be hearing by Rupa Goswami, Ashtaka, that speak not only of red oxide, but there's a certain type of arsenic that Krishna would wear. Now there's arsenic that's poisonous, and there's arsenic that's not poisonous, and Krishna knew which was which. And it's also reddish in color, and he would decorate himself, or the cowherd boys would decorate him with minerals that come from Govardhan Hill. That's one of them. It's part of their play. Like little girls when they go to Rath Yatras, they get gopi dots and things like that. So when Krishna goes out with the cowherd boys, he gets all these things from all over Vrindavan, and he's really dapper. He's decorated like anything. You'll hear. The forest is mentioned to distinguish the decorations from gold and other ornaments obtained in their houses. The forest ornaments, he liked them, even better than the gold ones. His limbs are decorated colorfully with peacock feathers, flowers, and minerals by his friends. He loudly sounded the flute and horn with joy. He engaged in dancing, playing, and singing festively, as well as playing his flute and horn. The boys loudly glorified him with joy, as if singing, because of their attractive voices. This purified the whole world. They glorified him by talking about his killing Agha. The gopis were Yashoda and the women of Vraja. Seeing him now was more joyful than previously because of Krishna's joy. He likes his pastimes with the cowherd boys and the cows. They love him and he loves them. And they become joyful and he becomes joyful. And so seeing him so joyful, they became joyful. He was more joyful because the real boys were superior to the expanded forms that he had created, which were forms of himself. He had more joy being with the cowherd boys than being with the cowherd boys that were his own expansions. Pretty amazing, huh? Text 48. All the cowherd boys reached the village of Braja and sang, "Today, Krishna saved us by killing a great serpent." Some of the boys described Krishna as the son of Yashoda, and others as the son of Nanda Maharaj. And the Sanskrit is, you'll hear it translated differently, or alternatively, Yashoda Nanda Su Nuna. Su Nuna is by the son of Nanda and Yashoda. BBT purport. Actually, Lord Krishna had killed the demon Aghasura 1 year earlier, but the boys, bewildered by the mystic potency of Brahma for 1 year, did not notice the time passing and thus thought that on that very day Lord Krishna had killed the demon Aghasura and was now returning home with them. Vishwanath Chakravarti, quote, "One huge snake was killed by this small child of Yashoda and Nanda, the child who gives fame, Yashoda, and bliss Nanda, Jiva Goswami. The boys who had come from the family of Yashoda called Krishna the son of Yashoda, and others called him the son of Nanda. Because there's relatives. From the Yashoda's side, they said, and others said. They all praised both parents without making distinctions to show the good fortune of the families of Gokula by the parents' presence. And Sanatana Goswami's very short purport reads, the snake was killed by Yashoda's son, who is bliss himself, Yashoda Nanda Sunuma, the Sununa. She attained satisfaction by his action. She is Yashoda. And the last verse for this evening, text 49. King Parikshit said, "O Brahmana, how could the cowherd women have developed for Krishna, someone else's son, such unprecedented love? Love they never felt even for their own children." Please explain this. No BBT purport. Here's Vishwanath's commentary. The love for their own sons had now increased to as much as that for Krishna, which had exceeded the love for their own sons. By now their love for Krishna also increased even more. The love for someone else's child kept exceeding the love for their own children. King Parikshit asks concerning this fact, how is it that the love for another's child increases beyond the love for their own child since the pastime with Lord Brahma? Usually parents have more love for their own children, even if others' children have better qualities. What was the cause of contradiction to normal experience? You're going to have to wait till tomorrow to get the answer. Stay tuned for coming attractions. Jiva Goswami writes, quote, one sees that affection is of three types. 1, because of the beauty in the object. 2, because of possessiveness. Now, possessiveness is a term that's used all the time by our acharyas, and it has to do with the intensity of love of the residents of Vrindavan. Mamata, the object of affection, the affection for the object of affection is so strong. It's possessiveness. He is mine. Like, those who aren't the parents, they have such possessiveness, intense affection for Krishna. It says, when they're doing their household, when the ladies are doing their household duties, they're doing it for Krishna. Not for the husbands, not for their children. They're doing it for Krishna. That's how intense is their possessiveness. They're not just nice ladies. They're intense lovers of Krishna in parental affection. And so their love flows to Krishna in that kind of love, possessiveness. It's a special feature of Braja Prem. Okay, so the beauty of an object, possessiveness, and because of the natural bodily relationship, like family member. So it's natural affection because of that. But Krishna assumed exactly the forms of the boys, so his beauty in those forms was not different from theirs. Rules out that first option of love. Their mothers had the same possessiveness as before, because it's their son, and then their son is Krishna, and now it's their son again. And the mothers still had relationships as mothers with their sons. This third affection is seen when Pradyumna returned. Who's Pradyumna? You two girls, do you know who is Pradyumna? Huh? Yes, Krishna's son. Who is the mother of Pradyumna? Rukmini. Rukmini is the first queen of Krishna, right? In Dwarka. And their first son was Pradyumna. And there was an incident where Pradyumna had disappeared. And then when Pradyumna came back, they were so happy. When the queens saw Pradyumna come back, they thought it was Krishna because they looked so much alike. But then they realized it wasn't Krishna. And then they were really happy. Pradyumna's come back. And when Rukmini saw Pradyumna, seeing Pradyumna, sweet-voiced, dark-eyed Rukmini remembered her lost son, and her breasts became moist out of affection. That's possessiveness. Due to the relationship of mother to son. Mother to daughter works too, by the way. Krishna was here. This is now still the question Jiva Goswami is asking. So how do you understand this? Krishna was here in the opposite position, since he was not their real son. Pradyumna was Rukmini's son. Their cowherd boy friends, that was their real son, not Krishna. But they have such affection for Krishna, so this is unnatural. Please explain. How could their love for Krishna be greater than their love for their real sons? That's the question of this verse 49. Paragraph. Desiring to know, Parikshit asked, how could such love arise for Krishna when he took the forms and names of the boys? He was not in his original Swarup when he took the form of the boys. Krishna had taken birth from another. Praro Bhave, Nanda and Yashoda. This shows that he was their real son, as shown by the statement, Nandas tva tat maja uptpane. Nanda became joyful at the birth of his own son. There's this, all that is in reference to whose son is Krishna. Is Krishna the foster son of Nanda and Yashoda? Or is Krishna the son of Nanda and Yashoda? Because we know Krishna was born in Mathura as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, so he was their son. But what's this? Is he really Nanda and Yasoda's son, or is he their foster son? And the answer is he's their son. Now that's a mystery, right? Here's the answer to that mystery. Sherlock Holmes figured it out. Krishna took birth simultaneously in the prison house of Kamsa and in Nanda and Yasoda's home. He manifested two Krishna baby forms, or baby Krishna forms, simultaneously. No problem for Krishna. A female child and a male child, she had twins. By Yogamaya's influence, she only recognized that she had one child. So she didn't think otherwise. Anyway, Krishna is Nanda's son. If this were not so, Parikshit should have asked, quote, how did Krishna have affection for Nanda and Yashoda? but he's their son. This is proof that Krishna was Nanda's son from the text itself. So by logic and by direct statement. So for a little chutney to the sabji, another interpretation is as follows. Going back to chapter 13, this is chapter 14, chapter 13. Now for 1 year, their affection, the mothers, for their own sons gradually increased without limit, for Krishna had now become their sons, and their affection for Krishna increased more than previously, to an astonishing degree. So they had affection for Krishna when he wasn't their son. Now Krishna is their son, and their affection for their own son increased more than their affection for Krishna when he wasn't their son. So the question of this verse 49 is, how could the mothers develop even more love for Krishna than they had previously? So there was the previous, when he wasn't their son. There was when Krishna was their son. And now after the Brahma's pastime, they have more love for Krishna than even when Krishna was their son. How's this? Please explain. He had more beauty than previously, and more than that, there was a greater possessiveness. Parentheses, since he had also became their son just prior to that. And so he is joyful like anything, because for a whole year he wasn't with the Cowherd Boys. He was with himself. He loves the Cowherd Boys, and he loves the calves. And he got to be with the calves and Cowherd Boys again, and he's really happy. So he's looking really happy. And they're seeing him really happy makes them even more happy. And the other is, Krishna wasn't their son, but they had more affection for Krishna than their son. Then Krishna became their son, so their affection for Krishna, for their sons, increased more than their affection for Krishna before he was their son. And now comes Krishna with their sons. So why are they experiencing greater happiness? Because he was just their son. Their possessiveness sense has increased for Krishna because Krishna was their son. And now they're seeing Krishna looking joyful, and it's even more. That's the Sherlock Holmes solution. But we're going to hear some more tomorrow. With a desire to reveal that truth, the question is asked. So we really have a treasure sitting on our bookshelves. And it's really nice to not just, Prabhupada speaks of what does a miser do. There's the Kripana and there's the Brahmana. The Kripana likes to look at his money. He finds happiness just looking at it. He doesn't use it, because once he uses it, then he doesn't have it anymore. So he looks at it. He counts how many jewels or how many thises or that's or something, and thinks how he can get more. And Brahmana is using it for service to Krishna. Relying that Krishna will take care of whatever my necessities are. So the Bhagavatam is a treasure. And we can, it looks nice on the bookshelf. And it's even nicer when we open it and read it and discuss it with one another. And the Bhagavatam is meant to be churned in the association. The topics of the Bhagavatam are meant to be churned in the association of devotees. Right? Katayantas chamam nityam tushanti cha ramanti cha. The devotees derive tushti and rama, satisfaction and great pleasure, discussing topics of Krishna with one another. And it really doesn't matter who's speaking, who's listening, and who's listening and who's speaking. It's the topics of Krishna and discussing topics of Krishna amongst devotees is how the nectar, is what Brahmanas do, as opposed to Kripanas. We want to distribute this knowledge. We want to churn amongst ourselves this knowledge. And it's not just knowledge, there's great happiness, spiritual happiness. And when we, to the degree that we can enter into that realm of spiritual happiness, at least for a while, the anxieties and disturbances and stuff of the world kind of goes away for a little while. And if we become proficient or absorbed, dedicated to these topics, it can take us beyond the cycle of birth and death into that realm of transcendence with Krishna. That's our Bhagavad Dharma. I can, just a little sharing and I'll end. I've been doing this, since the pandemic thing started. Just like we're doing this evening, little home visit, the family, and everybody's got masks on like they're robbers or something. There was that one family, the daughter just didn't want to wear a mask. She's like, I don't want to wear a mask. And I said, you can be really happy when we're gone because then you can take the mask off again. But just for protection of others and yourself, wear the mask. So, anyway, it's really been a joyful experience. Every morning, every evening, doing the same thing with devotees. Some devotees I know, some devotees I don't know, but devotees. Some newer devotees, some more experienced devotees. Some like to go really deep into the topic and ask really involved questions, and some ask really simple questions. And just, whatever the stage, the topics of Krishna are just wonderful. Just wonderful. And if this wasn't recorded, I would say something that's probably shouldn't be said when it's recorded. The same type of activity is going on in a situation where there's a husband and wife, and one of them is not, they're neutral. They're not a devotee. They're not anti-devotee. They're not a devotee. They're neutral. But by circumstance, because one of them has a very serious illness, they're reading topics, very elevated topics. And they're enjoying it like anything. They just finished one, and they want to go to the next one. I mean, these topics, my point is, they're so satisfying to the heart. You don't have to be, some super something or other. You just have to have a simple heart in hearing the topics of Krishna. Even they're very, very elevated. They're very sweet. They're very attractive. They're very purifying. They're very mysterious. In the history of literature, how many for school, for kids in middle school and early stages of high school, I asked them, what do you have reading in school? Yeah. What kind of books?
We read books that generally have, like as of now, the unit that we're working on,
Many kids tell me they read mystery stories, detective stories, sailor stories, Moby Dick, and you know, sometimes it's like this, stories that have a lesson, and they want to teach kids lessons through stories. But otherwise, it's just increasing the vocabulary and expanding their exposure to our lovely Western culture. So, detective stories. What to speak of HP, Harry Potter. Anyway, this has not only has attractiveness, but it has consciousness elevation. Very, very mysterious stories, narrations. But it's not fiction, and it's consciousness elevating. And very sublime. So I've been having a great time, and I'm happy to be having a nice time with you this evening. Let's see if there's some discussion. We'll start with whoever would like to discuss something in the room, and then we'll go to online and see where we go. Anyone? Anything? Mask, so I can hear you better.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
I have a question on the first portion that you were discussing.
Which one?
Krishna's promises in different references.
That's an attractive topic.
Yeah,
isn't
in my mind I was thinking these are hope-giving
yes,
like
it's true.
hope-giving promises that Krishna, is making in different occasion. And everywhere it says that, like as you mentioned, like bhakti carries the bhakta, right?
Yes,
And Krishna also said that I remember devotee.
yes.
Right. But Maharaj, one question always comes to my mind is
Good.
what does it mean by devotee? Right? We hear different definitions, right? Someone who even chanted once, who's devotee.
Okay.
Someone who is
Well,
who's initiated, maybe a devotee, who's regularly chanting, who's serving. But what really, in this context, what Krishna means, what Krishna considered a person to be devotee, that he would remember him, even the devotee don't remember Krishna at the time of his death, right? So what?
You want to know Krishna's heart.
It's my selfish thing because I don't know whether I'll be able to remember him. I don't know. I'm able to put the question right way or not.
No, I understand your question. So we'll just go back to your question. The context is Lord Chaitanya giving answers 3 years in a row to the devotees from Kalinagram who ask who is a devotee. Because they asked Lord Chaitanya, we're householders, we're attached, this and that. What's our duty? And he said, as far as possible, always chant Hare Krishna, and as far as possible, serve the devotees. That's an instruction. So then they asked, who is a devotee? And the first year was anyone who chants Krishna's name once. Then the next year it was those who are, regularly chanting and initiated. And then those that are on the topmost platform. Just by seeing that person, you think of Krishna. So, Krishna Madhyama Uttama. They're all devotees. So now back to your question. Which stage of bhakti is it that Krishna is going to remember that person and take them to him because they chanted Krishna's name once, or they're initiated, or they're on this topmost platform? That's your question.
Yes, sir.
Did I get it right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying, it's not instantly, I'll take them to me, but I will take them to me. Eventually, I will make sure they come to me. So Krishna will never forget. We may forget, but Krishna will never forget. But Krishna is not forgetting. What shape does that take? He extends mercy to them A nice example of this is when Gopakumar finally makes it back to Krishna Loka, and he sees Krishna, right? You know that passage? Krishna, he sees Krishna, he runs, Krishna sees him, and Krishna runs, and they both faint. Balaram scolds Gopakumar, just see what you did, you caused Krishna to faint. So, when Krishna becomes awake, he embraces him and speaks something like this. I've been waiting for you to come back. I thought, maybe in this lifetime he'll come back, but you didn't come back. Then maybe the next lifetime, but you didn't come back, and several times. Then I came myself. I was your spiritual master. And I gave you the mantra, and now you're back. Please don't go away again. I won't go away again. I won't go away again. So, if one doesn't make it back, Krishna doesn't forget. That's one way to take what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying as a commentary to that Uddhava Gita verse. You can read it again separately, 1.7.6. It's in Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. But this other reference is Adivaraha Purana, and it's the same statement is being made. The bhakti will protect their devotee. Bhakti may get reduced or covered. Bhakti is eternal. It doesn't get, it may get covered, but it's eternal. Right? So in a covered state, one may become forgetful, but Krishna doesn't forget. And Krishna will make arrangements to send representatives, etc., to give opportunity again and again. Because that's Krishna. That's his nature. The bhakti will protect the devotee. And bhakti will carry, and Krishna will bring. It's a tandem program. Our devotional effort in Krishna's mercy. And it has to mature. It's not, hey, I chanted once, I'm going back to Godhead. Or I became initiated, I'm going back to Godhead. When bhakti becomes matured, Krishna reciprocates. Okay? It's that circumstantial, specifically, this other verse in Adivaraha Purana says, if by physical circumstance they're unable to chant, like supposing somebody's in a coma, Bhakti Chumaraj left his body when he was on a ventilator, and whatever they put in his body so he wouldn't, cough up the ventilator machine. So he was sedated. His light wasn't on. But his bhakti was on. And that's reciprocated with. If physical circumstance doesn't permit, bhakti will protect. So that's not, 100% answering your question, but it's directionally answering your question. Ultimately, everything's in Krishna's hands, so there's not like a cookie-cutter answer to hook somebody up to a bhakti meter and the bell rings and now they go back to Godhead.
Thank you, Maharaj. It definitely gives a hope.
Yeah. I mean, it's the kindness of Krishna is the essence. He's not ungrateful. He's forever grateful. It's mentioned like that in relation to the Ajamila story in commentary. It's right in the Prabhupada's purports, but it's also from our acharyas. Oh, he's called my name? I'm obliged. Now, Ajamila was not thinking I mean, he was in a really difficult situation. Help! Narayana, help! Thinking his son. But then he called Narayan. I have to come. Yena tena pakarena mana krishnena veshayat. Somehow or other become attached to Krishna. So just put your effort there and rely on Krishna's mercy from the other side. That's
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
how about others in the family? Yes? No? Yes?
Dandavat Pranam Maharaj. Thank you for the beautiful discussion. Maharaj, my question is not directly related to today's class.
I'm used to it.
Like many times I heard in your classes you said false ego is the first to come and last to go.
Yes.
So Maharaj, my question is, for me personally, I feel there is a lot of false ego. What should be the practical tips to get rid of it?
Well, strong sadhana, because, it's like a TV commercial. Bhakti is stronger than dirt. Dun-dun-dun-dun. Bhakti is stronger than dirt. When I was a kid, that was like a TV commercial. Stronger than dirt. Dun-dun-dun-dun. So it takes away unclean things. Bhakti, cheta darpana marjanam. So that's the starting point. Strong sadhana, good association, which means also avoiding the unwholesome, but seeking good association and making your best efforts to apply. That's the third. The application message is the cultivation of bhakti, because bhakti, according to Rupa Goswami, is a sort of cultivation. That's Prabhupada's words in the introduction to Nectar Devotion. Bhakti is a sort of cultivation, which is a paraphrase of Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. Bhakti is a sort of cultivation. Anushilana. Anu is to follow, and Shila is behavior. We follow the behavior of, so we cultivate, we don't imitate, we cultivate the behavior that's to be done, that great souls do. That's the cultivation. So you read Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam, and what's the lesson? How can I apply this lesson? And you do that regularly, it'll become part of your life, how to apply this lesson. So it's not just information, it goes into the heart, and it comes out in the form of how you express yourself. It's a furthering of the cleansing action. Cheta darpana marjanam is take the teachings and bring them in your heart, bring them inside, and live by them. Apply the teachings. So those are three things. It will dissolve false ego, and the first one is the most important one. Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25, verse something like 19. Bhakti has the power to dissolve the subtle body, which includes the false ego. Make your bhakti strong, stay in good association, and apply the teachings. Conscientiously apply the teachings. Not just expect your family members to follow the teachings, but lead by applying the teachings. And the other community members that may be wherever they may be doing whatever they're doing. Start inside and apply the teachings and live by them. And as you do that, you'll become more aware tomorrow than you are today of how strong false ego is. the rebelliousness. You know, your awareness of how false ego is governing you now is a lot keener awareness than it was some time ago. So that's part of purification. Don't be intimidated by it. Continue with the application and the bhakti process. And bhakti is stronger. Light is stronger than darkness. And false ego is pretty strong. First one to come, last one to go. Even before we get a body, we get false ego. And when you're overcoming the bodily conception, you know, that's the anchor. That's what's holding the bodily conception program together. False ego. So what's my true ego? That's bhakti. You act from that place. Not just the do's and the don'ts, but it's the bhakti with which you do the do's and avoid the don'ts. It's the spontaneous life of devotion, and we cultivate it. Application. Okay, you two girls have
Thank
anything?
you, Maharaj.
Okay, we're going to go online now.
This is from Sri Radhika Devi Dasi. How is it that Krishna is complete and at the same time he is happier with the original cowherd boys rather than his own expansions of the cowherd boys?
Love. That's permissible for Krishna to have love. He's not breaking any rules.
So the next is from Shashireka Devi Dasi. Hare Krishna Maharaj. This is from Canto 5. Lord Rishabdev smeared himself with stool and urine because he wanted to stay aloof and not get disturbed by other people. But his stool and urine had good scent, then how will it solve the purpose of Lord Rishabdev to stay secluded?
He was... It's similar to Krishna's, the previous question. It's that Rishabdev was teaching a certain teaching, and he was exhibiting a certain mood to further that teaching. So it's a transcendental mood. It's not avoidance of negative, and therefore he did the positive. It's a transcendental mood. He's teaching by example. In an extreme way, he became, a total avadut. Totally. But he was exhibiting a teaching to an extreme. So it doesn't mean we follow. We. How should we take that example? I think that's the question, or maybe that's where the question leads to. How do we take the example of what he did? It's very similar. It's different, but very similar to those initial instructions Krishna gives to Uddhava. Essential in bhakti is detachment from the temporary. And that detachment from the temporary can be manifested in so many different ways. For example, Maharaj Ambarish and Maharaj Yudhisthira, they were surrounded by this enormous opulence. And they were totally detached. You go the other extreme, and Rishabdev is, doing what he did. But the principle is manifesting of detachment. So he was doing it in a certain way, within a certain mood and a certain ecstatic expression. Not to be imitated. And not to be thought of as within the material framework. He didn't want, and therefore he... Not like that. Next.
So the next question is from Govinda Mohini Devi Mataji. As we hear that time and distance expand or contract in spiritual world according to Krishna's will,
Yeah, we discussed this the other day.
is
Time
that
and space, and just to repeat for the family here, that Krishna's time energy is very flexible for his pastimes, and his space, the spatial configuration of things for Krishna's pastimes is also quite flexible. For whatever he wants, that's what happens. Time and space is quite flexible in the spiritual realm. Next.
is that also true in this material world? Time expands for devotees. In
Sure.
life of Srila Prabhupada,
Yeah.
we see that he was able to do so much in one day.
Yeah, and so much in his adult life, inconceivable. Not only he slept little, but he would do things, at an amazing pace, by spiritual strength, not just by spinning, a top spinning faster. It's not just the speed at which he did things; it was the purity with which he did things, and it had a huge impact. Yes.
This is from Raja Ramchandran Prabhu, Radha Vallabhdas Prabhu. As per verse 59, we observe similar.
Verse 59 or 49?
He says 59 there, but he says.
He says 59.
Okay, I
Yeah,
think
so-
it's 49 because
And then we observe similar Rajvasi is our spiritual masters have developed deep, pure love for Krishna compared to their own disciples. So, is detached caring principle in play that Krishna is in control from spiritual master perspective?
I don't understand the question.
You know,
Well, I think we'll go on. I mean,
yeah, 49 he says again. yeah.
huh?
He refers back to 49 verse again, he says.
Okay. So, if
Similar
what
to-
he's asking verification about is when you become attached to Krishna and attached to the spiritual master, thus attached to Krishna, is that the root of caring for others, but not having a material attachment for others, but having a spiritual attachment? That's what detached caring is. And the answer is yes.
This is from Atulya Mataji. When Krishna did not respond to Lord Brahma's prayers, how did Lord Brahma felt reciprocated by Krishna? How did he feel reciprocated by Krishna?
There's several explanations that we discussed from our Acharya's writings, and they include I want to go back. Silence means consent, so he's consenting that I go back. So he took his silence as consent. He took his silence also as forgiveness, because he was requesting forgiveness. He didn't get scolded at all. He wasn't getting like a rude, silent treatment, but Krishna was smiling. And Brahma also took it that I'm insignificant, and these cowherd boys, they're significant. And he wants to be with the significant ones. So let me quietly go, so Krishna can return, because I've made this offense of disrupting Krishna's lunch and taking away the cowherd boys from Krishna. So let me quietly go, and then let Krishna be the enjoyer of his activities with the cowherd boys. Those are ways in which he took his silence.
So the next one is from Archana Vaidya Mataji. And she says, one question is, Does steadiness mean never forgetting Krishna?
Well, never forgetting Krishna is perfection. And steadiness comes before perfection. Steadiness, according to Rupa Goswami's teachings and the Bhagavatam teaching, is when the anarthas in the heart are reduced to the degree that although they're still in the heart, they're not overwhelming your life and your behavior. They're still there. They're loitering and lingering and residually hanging around. But your steady means bhakti has sufficient maturity that they don't manifest.
And second question from Mataji is, in verse 44, the internal energy is said to be employed for forgetfulness of cowherd boys and the external energy for forgetfulness of conditioned living entities.
Yes.
Also from Bhagavad Gita, we know that the Mahatmas are under protection of Krishna's divine energy
Yes.
or internal energy.
Yes.
When does Krishna take the practicing devotees under the protection of his internal energy? Is there a particular stage when this happens?
Immediately. That's when it happens.
Immediately.
Now, supposing the devotee is intermittent in their submission to Krishna, slacking in submission, indulging in illusion, and then submitting again to Krishna. So it can be intermittent, external, internal energy.
So this is from Giridhar Votikota Prabhu. How do we identify impersonal tendencies in us? How can we fix them? This is Girivardhari Das.
Yeah. Well, fix them is through the bhakti process, and how do they manifest themselves? When you read Bhagavad Gita carefully, you'll find it again and again and again, and it's the absence of or the weakness of a desire to please Krishna. Now, that can largely be materialism, but materialism has its aspect of impersonalism also. That is, Krishna is out of the picture. It's just me and the objects of the senses, and let me try to enjoy. Now, an impersonalist may be austere for achieving the goal of impersonal realization. But an impersonalist may not be so austere, but they're just denying the existence, like an atheist is denying the existence of God and being a hedonist. That's another kind of impersonalism. Impersonalism means the absence of a relationship with the Supreme Person. Now, more commonly than otherwise, the materialist is in his own category, his own bucket, and over here is the impersonalist that's pursuing, consciously or otherwise, trying to become one with the Supreme. And artificially rejecting that kind of renunciation, artificially rejecting the senses and sense objects, making the senses dull and calling the sense objects bad names, and staying away from it by avoidance for the purpose of becoming one with the Supreme. So that's common definition. For our own tendencies, is the weakness. Tendency is a weakness of attraction for the personal features of Krishna, his form, his qualities, activities, etc. That's it? Yes. Can we, do we normally have our little protocol of sanitizing? Do we have wipes? Starting tomorrow morning.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, for me, the problem is like when I read Bhagavad Gita or especially Bhagavad Gita, when I go mostly with the information mode, when I read, it's like more of like, oh, what do I get? What do I get? What do I get? Then it goes in a long way of like, oh, I just like can't keep up to the standard. Then I get discouraged. Then it goes down. But when I try with a not information mode, I don't have that much passion to read it. I don't know, I should not use the word passion, but I don't have that
no, I
much.
follow. It's fruitive.
I don't have that much love to read it. So then it becomes so tough. So I'm just like struggling with that. I go sometime, then come back. Go sometime, especially with Bhagavad Gita, which I've been really, really struggling with. So how do I like not go in that state?
I'm very familiar with what you're speaking about. The fact that you're aware that you have such a tendency is itself spiritual progress. It's a little bit like her question about, false ego, and I'm influenced by it. This is another. It's just the fact that you're recognizing this unsteadiness up and down thing is progress. Yay! You're making spiritual progress. Now, what to do? That's there's a verse in Uddhava Gita much later. I'll see if I can find it and provide it. It's not coming to mind. The verse number is not coming to mind. But Krishna says to Uddhava something like what you're saying. And when the devotee recognizes, well, I'm in this stage, and it's not what the stage that I should be, but it's the stage where I am. And so they become accepting of the stage where they are, knowing it's not going to bring them the real happiness that they want, the higher happiness that they want, but being accepting of themselves and the consequence of that. There's, the unsteady stage, struggling with false ego or struggling with fruitive tendency, accepting that that's my stage, and not having aversity toward what that higher stage, but hankering for that higher stage. Now, that's hope, or ashabandha. The other phrase, nectar devotion. Welcome to the club, the Ashabandha Club. Rupa Goswami's a member too. At least he's writing as if he's one of us. I don't have qualification. I'm down here. But I have faith in the process, so you stay with the process. Now, so you do that that works for you. Meanwhile, you're monitoring. This isn't really what the standard is. The standard is my relationship with Krishna, but I'm not there yet. I want to be there, and I'm not there yet. So let me continue, although it's not as satisfying, and it's not really what the goal is, but let me absorb myself in Bhagavad Gita's message as I get a picture of what the landscape is. The message of bhakti has its intricacies, and you're learning those intricacies by your own admission, by the question itself. Because otherwise people are just in la-la land, and they go through lifetime after lifetime, they don't even know what's going on, and struggling and up, like a piece of wood floating in the ocean. They don't know, they have no control over their circumstance. So continue studying Bhagavad Gita in a way that helps you get absorbed in the message of Bhagavad Gita, knowing it's not the highest standard, but it'll help me get familiar with the territory of the message of Bhagavad Gita. That's the information side. And as that becomes, the academic training that we all have within us, that's what you do when you read a book. You try to understand the information that's in the book, information gathering exercise. But you're cultivating bhakti meanwhile. You're exercising your bhakti muscle a little bit. It's not well developed yet, so you're doing your bhakti therapy, like physical therapy. You're exercising your bhakti muscle a little bit. And gradually, by conscientiously, it'll be unsteady. The bhakti exercise will be unsteady. But that's what's most important for you at this stage. Let that grow. And then, you are where you are in your stage of bhakti. You're a million times better off than people that don't have Bhagavad Gita. Or they have it, they don't understand, they just don't involve themselves. So you're involving yourself with it. You're engaging with that which is purifying your existence. So continue to engage yourself in whatever the stage is that you are, cultivating bhakti all the while. And however long it takes, that's how long it takes. There's not a race, and you're not, getting grades in your spiritual report card. It's not like that. It's not the academic thing. It's the spiritual thing. In your relationship, Krishna will recognize, and you're having your dialogue with Krishna about, this is where I am, please accept me. I want to get closer to you, but I'm way down here. I'm struggling. Please help me come closer to you. And the sincerity, Krishna will hear and he'll help you. That it accelerates the cleansing process of the coverings, and it also accelerates the connection with Krishna process. Because those are two things. Removing of unwanted, awakening the wanted.
Thank you.
Okay. One more question online. Just, you take the wipe and wipe across the top to the speaking part. Yes, good.
This is from Sanchari Devi Mataji.
Okay.
Maharaj, in thinking about the love that Rajvasis have towards Krishna, and how it's not tinged with any envy, but instead is based on increasing happiness, based on another's happiness, whether it is Krishna's increased happiness or the happiness of a fellow devotee who's connected to Krishna. Is this love that we are called to develop?
Is this love that what?
Is this the love that we are called to develop?
Yeah.
And is it possible for aspiring devotees, or is it only realized at the time of death?
No. A, not B. It's gradual. It's a gradual awakening. It's not, the death comes and voila, you remember Krishna. It's gradual. It's awakening of our dormant consciousness. Okay? Hare Krishna. Anything? Okay. Prabhupada ki jai.